What is up, guys? Welcome back to OverTakes. This is Misfit, and today we're going to be talking about Week 6 in the Overwatch League, the start of the qualifiers for the June Joust, and we're going to talk about a couple other things. Not too much going on the last few days as far as Overwatch League news goes. We covered some of that on the rankings episode for the June Joust. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I go over all of my rankings for 1 to 20, and then the East and the West. But before we dive into Week 6, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me. All of you guys who've been supporting me, thank you very much. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. And if you guys are new, just checking us out, I do Overwatch League content 2 to 3 times a week, depending on what we got going on. You know, whether it's tournaments or news or whatever. Depending on, and speaking of that, depending on if we get anything at all to this afternoon. I'm recording this on Thursday morning. I have to watch the Overwatch PvP thing later on when I get home. And then if there's anything pertinent news-wise for Overwatch League, I'll throw something up there and we'll talk about that. But normally 2 to 3 times a week, guys. So thanks a lot if you stop by. Please hit a like, hit a subscribe, and hit the alert bell. You know, all the YouTube stuff will be greatly, greatly appreciated. All right, so let's dive into this. We are in Week 6, the first week of the qualifiers for the June Joust. So let's talk about the schedule really quick. We'll go down, and then we'll go over the featured matches, and then, of course, at the end, I'll do the rundown, where I go through and pick all of the matches for the week. And then, guys, just so you know, I haven't been tallying, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to tally everything, and I'll tell you where I'm at on next week's episode. So we'll have, and I'll keep it running from there on out. That way you can see how good or bad I am at picking matches. But anyway, let's get it started, guys. All right, let's start off. Tomorrow we have Friday, that would be. First match of the weekend, first match of the qualifiers for June Joust tournament. We have the Paris Eternal taking on the Toronto Defiant at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, followed by the Spitfire taking on the Mayhem. Moving to Saturday, we are into the East schedule now. We have Guangzhou taking on Hangzhou, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, followed by the Dragons, Shanghai Dragons taking on the Chengdu Hunters. And wrapping up the East for Saturday, we have the New York Excelsior taking on the Philadelphia Fusion. Then we head back west. We have 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have Paris Eternal taking on the Washington Justice, followed by Houston taking on Atlanta. And then wrapping up Saturday, we have Toronto taking on Boston. Sunday schedule. In the East, we are starting off 5 a.m. with the Shanghai Dragons taking on the Hangzhou Spark, followed by the NYXL taking on the Guangzhou Charge. Wrapping up the East for the weekend, we have Philly taking on Chengdu. Then back to the West, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Atlanta Ring taking on the London Spitfire, followed by the Washington Justice taking on the Boston Uprising, and finishing off the weekend with possibly the best match of the week. We have the Florida Mayhem taking on the Houston Outlaws. And that's the schedule. Okay, so I pegged 3 matches to highlight for this week, 2 of them involving Chengdu. It was a toss-up between, for me, the Chengdu Shanghai match and the Houston Atlanta match. I went with Chengdu Shanghai because I thought it was going to be, I think it's going to be a little bit more intriguing as far as it's the East, its wackiness, potential, and all of those things. I think the Atlanta-Houston match is going to be a good bit of fun to watch. I think it's going to be a very important match for Atlanta and Houston to see where they're at, getting into the weekend's events and all that for them. Or the June Joust, their June Joust schedule, and getting with the hero pools and all that stuff. Other than those matches, though, guys, I mean, matches are a little brutal this week. I'm not gonna lie. We have some doggers in there and some potential for one-sidedness. But the one good thing is with some of these matches, you don't know what's going to happen because the hero pool has been set in. We don't have a meta. If it was, if we just continued on from last time, you have a little bit clearer of a picture. It's going to provide for some excitement for the first weekend in some of these matches that are not necessarily looking too good on paper. Potential for a weird match. I'm going to throw out there a weirdly good match. Maybe Friday, Paris, Toronto, as far as a close match goes. I think that one could be closer than advertised, but we'll have to see. And also that goes into the hero pools, how they're playing, what they're playing, and all that. We talked about all the things with the hero pool and my thoughts on it on the last episode. One thing I did forget to mention was the map pool that's going to be coming up for this tournament. Obviously, escort and control stay the same because we only have 3 assault maps that are playable that aren't haven't been taken out because they took out Paris and Horizon Lunar Colony, and all the control maps are available. But we have escort and hybrid. We have added Junkertown and Rialto on escort, and then hybrid. The new maps are going to be Hollywood and Numbani. I like watching Junkertown for some reason. I guess I'm a glutton. I think Rialto's a great map for the professional scene. I think this is going to be awesome. I like watching what these guys do on there. And Hollywood and Numbani are classics. There's always something weird that happens on these maps for some reason on the hybrids, especially those two. Numbani is, you've all played it. The first point is brutal. It's almost 3 different maps in one. You can say that about all of them, but Numbani plays like a comp-wise. You can literally have to change the comp from point A to the streets phase, past point C to the finish on the map. You could literally play 3 different types of compositions on that map. Say it for some of the other ones too, Eichenwald and a couple other ones, but I just feel like Numbani's got a little bit more insanity with stuff like that. And I like watching these guys play pretty much anything, but that map is a good one to watch in Hollywood too. So I'm glad, we got some new maps in here and it's going to be fun. So, and it also does some different things to the comps. Obviously Junkertown, y'all know what we're going to be seeing on that one. We're going to be seeing our old pal Orisa going to be making it, and I'm sure there's going to be double shields and double snipers and all that stuff. You'll be seeing a lot of that on before we get into the outside Junkertown, before you get to point A. That's wide open, and there's always a lot of sniper action on those maps anyway, no matter if they're relevant or not in the meta on a macro level. Junkertown always, double sniper on point A always seems to be a thing. And because of the space and all that kind of stuff, and it's fun to watch. At least we get some of that. I know some people don't like the sniper thing, but watching some guys pull off some of these ridiculous shots on Widow or Hanzo, it's just awesome. So I'm all for it. But anyway, let's get into the matches. Let's start this up. All right. So first match on the slate we got that we're highlighting. We have the Shanghai Dragons taking on the Chengdu Hunters. Okay. Now we have the hero pools. These two teams had a good match the first time they played, week 1, and Chengdu won. So it was, everybody was feeling out the meta, kind of playing along the same lines here with that. But I think that Shanghai has kind of found some confidence, found their footing, and I don't think this meta is terrible for them because you have Lip, who has the most damage on Ashe, right? So everyone's like, well, no Tracer, no Sombra. You have Fleta. And, we know what that guy can do. And you also have Diem, who hasn't looked great, but you have Diem too. And your tanks are decent enough at the heroes that are available. Fate, I wouldn't worry too much. You can do Monkey if you're going to do double bubble things. And Orisa, last year he was decent enough on Orisa when he was with the Mayhem. So I don't worry too much about that. Plus he's a good shot caller and all that. So the thing where I get worried is if you start getting into a ball meta, he's not the best. And playing Chengdu, that's going to be interesting. You don't have Sombra around to do the hacks and all that stuff. So it's going to be very, very interesting. And, Chengdu's going to pull out some things. I don't know how the meta is going to shake out as far as the East. They like the Monkey a lot. So I'm assuming we're going to see a lot of Monkey, a lot of ball. I think in certain situations we're going to get the double shield stuff where it's warranted, or if some team feels as though they can do a lot more damage with that. But it's hard to say. Poke Comso, like with the ball and all that, they're going to be a little hampered without the Zenyatta. You can kind of work around it with Baparana or something like that, but I think we're going to be seeing over there, especially on the east side of the board, we're going to be seeing a lot of the Winston comps and obviously ball comps. And, Chengdu, they got into the Final Four playing a lot of ball to begin with. Getting better at rush, but they don't have to worry about that right now. They have enough players on this team to be able to cover some of the bases and the things that they need to do, but I don't know if they're at the skill level that the Shanghai Dragons are at. I think this is going to be a good match. Their DPS is covered. They can run any wackadoo thing that they want with these guys that they got. They can do the weird Ball Farah Doomfist insanity if they want to do that. You got Jinmu, and you got a couple other guys on this team that can do these things. And of course, you got Gaga and you got Aming. I think they're going to try and keep it standard, though. I haven't seen or paid attention too much to Jimmy on the Ashe. He's kind of a hot streaky guy when I've seen him play. His head scans are good. He's decent enough. I think you're going to see some of him. You're going to see Jinmu in spots too, doing some of the things that he does when they want to run your Faras and your other things like that. I think you're going to be seeing him. And Leave is good on pretty much anything you can put him on as far as, what I've seen. We're probably going to be seeing, I'm assuming, keeping Leave in, Jinmu and Jimmy are going to be the ones coming in and out. So I'm sold on Chengdu on the whole as better than they were, a decent team, and someone to watch out for in these tournaments and these things. But against Shanghai, I'm not sold that they're better than them yet. They did beat them once this year already, but I'm leaning on Shanghai's experience, and they got that taste of being in the playoffs in the finals. So did Chengdu, but infinitely better team Shanghai is right now. Well, maybe not infinitely. They're a couple steps above Chengdu right now. And after last year when they won tournaments just in the East and all that stuff, and they got knocked out, I think they're hungry to get one against a team in the West, an overall tournament win. The last time they really won anything with all the teams involved was Stage 3 in 2019, where they said screw the meta and they ran triple DPS against everybody, and they took that stage away from some of the other teams that you would have expected in that year to win. I'm looking for Shanghai in this game 3-1. Decently close on most of the maps, but I think Shanghai just has a little bit too much and is going to take this one away from Chengdu. And I think Chengdu could be in a little bit of trouble. They have a brutal schedule. First week, they play Philly and Shanghai, and I believe they have Seoul in their 1 week. They have a possibility of being 1-3 in this one, but I wouldn't call that bad. They're playing top teams, and it just depends on what shakes down meta-wise. Without certain characters and components that for those comps, it's going to be a little bit harder. It's also going to be hard to counter some of the stuff without Sombra that they do. But you have other counters. You got May and you got other things like that if teams want to play that. So that's my pick in the first match. 3-1 Shanghai Dragons over the Chengdu Hunters. Next match, talk about the Hunters again, but this time playing Philadelphia. So I'm doing it in chronological order as far as the schedule goes. So, if you guys are keeping tabs as to when these games are. There wasn't much on Saturday in the West that I really thought was worthy outside of the Outlaws rain match. But so we're going to skip ahead to Sunday morning where we have Philly taking on Chengdu. Now, this one, I am a little more confident in Philadelphia in this one against Chengdu than I was Shanghai against Chengdu in this. I have Philadelphia in this. They're coming back. I think they have a point to prove. They got some cohesion with these new guys in, and they went 4-0. They have an opportunity. This is their biggest, toughest match that they have all stage, or whatever you call it, for all of the qualifiers. They have a possibility of going 8-0 before their guys get in. And then they can, if they want to work those guys in, they can do it. And they're going to have advantages as far as, wins, and just, they have room for error integrating guys in is what I'm getting at. But this match specifically, I think they're going to come out angry. They are going to try and prove a point that, the last stage, that last match against Shanghai was an anomaly. they are the best team or close to it. You know, you could call them and Shanghai the two best teams. I think they want to come out here, establish some tempo, and just show everybody what they're about. I think they're going to have a good grasp on what's going to happen. The Mono is really good at a lot of tanks. I also West or East, we're probably going to see him on Monkey a lot. I always liked his Monkey back in the day. He was really good at doing dives and things like that. I liked him a lot when he was in New York doing that. I think it's still a tick better than his Reinhardt. His ball is okay, and his Rissa is kind of okay. That's where I get a little scared, because him and Hotba last year running some of that double shield stuff was not the greatest thing in the world. So if they don't get into a situation with, like, trying to force that in too much, which I don't think they are against Chengdu, because Chengdu does different stuff. Chengdu's not going to come out and do general meta things if things start shaking out that way. And also with the Hog pick, you're looking pretty good with these two guys that you got here. I'm not 100% on Mono's Hog, if they're running Hog Sigma or something like that, or whatever, the weird stuff they were doing at the end of last year. I think if anything, you're going to be seeing Pulled Porky with that cooldown on the halt and all that. If you see Hog, obviously look for that on Junkertown. But I think that their tank line is going to trump the tank line of the Chengdu Hunters in this match. Overall, I think they're better. I think in this match in particular, Mono and Hotba are going to do as good, if not better, than Elsa and Gaga. And obviously, you know my thoughts on the supports for the Fusion. Alarm, best flex in the league. One of them, top 2, 3, however you want to rank them. I don't care. Toby is proving he still has it, and he's playing really, really well. I mean, and that's not to say Chengdu stuff is, Chengdu's support line is not any good. I think they have a lot going on. I like Monk and I like Faraway 1987. I don't know how they're going to do this. It seems like they've been using Faraway 1987 on the Zenyatta type comps and Monk on the other stuff. So if without Zenyatta, do we see Faraway 1987 at all this weekend? Hard to say. Everything to me in this match points towards Philadelphia. I think this is a 3-0. As close as you can get in a 3-0. I think Chengdu can take some points here and there. But overall, I like Philadelphia to win this one 3-0. I don't have confidence in Chengdu beating them and or Shanghai in the same week. I think that's a little much to ask. And depending on what happens against the Dragons, I think that's what we're going to see what happens with Chengdu here. If they get smoked by the Dragons somehow, their confidence could drop a little bit going into this Philly game. And it also means whatever they're trying as far as meta picks or, you know, in the hero pool are not working. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think they're going to keep both of these games semi-close in this one. 3-0, though, score-wise. I think overall, as far as like these, just to wrap up the first two matches, because they're both in the East, I think Philly and Shanghai assert their dominance over on that side of the map as far as who the two best teams are. Chengdu, I still think, is up there. I still think they're third, depending on soulness. If you see Gesture's Hog rolling around, it could be dangerous for teams, and you know they're going to try it. You know they are, but I still think Chengdu's the third best team right now as we speak. They could get passed by Seoul at some point, but that's my take on that. Really quick on where things are going to shake out a little bit after those two matches. Now to the final featured match. All right, guys, we have the Mayhem taking on the Houston Outlaws. First, I'm going to apologize to all the Houston fans who I've been stroking all year and telling you your team is good. This is not the week that's going to happen. A Mayhem fan, you're the enemy. So take it as you want to take it this weekend. But I'm going to break it down in an objective manner. Don't worry. But you already know what's going to happen with my pick. All right, just right off the bat there, I'm taking Mayhem 3-2. Let's talk about this match. All right, Houston, fantastic first stage. They surprised everybody, went 4-0. They beat top tier teams in Dallas, who was still trying to figure things out. And then they beat the Shock, and they won their other two matches as well. They look really good. Django and Piggy are a really good tank line. I'm liking everything I see from them. I'm liking what I see from the DPS line. I'm liking Crimzo and Juby. and the occasional Jake smatterings we have here and there doing the Brigida thing, they're looking really good. They're coached really well. You can tell this when they go into a match. They just ran into a buzzsaw, and I said this, guys, if you're Houston fans, don't get discouraged by that loss to Dallas. Dallas figured out what they were going to do, and they were on a roll. You just can't, sometimes you just can't beat teams when they're playing like that. It happens. That aside, with the hero pool going on right now, I don't know too much about Chengdu and Piggy's double shield comp. I'm assuming that they were in contenders, so they had to have played it quite a bit over the last year or so with that going on. I think they can run other comps, though. Their Winston comps are going to be probably fairly key. I'm assuming a lot of people are going to be doing those as well. Ball comps on certain maps on the west side. I'm assuming west side we're going to see more monkey and double shield, a little less of the poke with the ball. Zenyatta is so key to that it's really hard to kind of get around that with the Discord orb and those kind of things. And also with double shield, it's kind of big with that too, because a lot of times you run Bap Zen. You get Discords and all that kind of, you guys know that comp pretty well. So, I mean, a lot of that stuff you're going to see. I'm liking where this goes because Crimzo and Juby are going to be decent enough. I don't know if we see more Jake, because I don't know what, as far as in some of those static, slow-moving comps, what Juby's level is on a couple of those other heroes, such as, well, I guess the other hero would be Mercy. If you're running a pocketed Ashe with a Mercy, I don't know how he is at that or anything like that. I'm liking where this team is at, though. Their DPS are going to be fine. Although two of Dante's really good picks are out, but he can play the Echo. So you might see some Echo comps with Dante. Maybe you run Echo Ashe, Echo Doom, because you got Hydration too. He's got a solid Doom Fist. So I mean, you got those guys. You got Jake floating around too. He could play wacky Jake things. He could be Junkratting or whatever. Who knows? They're gonna do well again. Is what I'm getting at. But in this match, I like the Mayhem. Mayhem to me right now, in a meta like this without the Reinhardt, they played their Rein comps really well. Oj has been performing better than we thought he was gonna do. Let's just nail that down right now. The couple of guys have been up and down, and depending on maps and heroes that they have to play and all that kind of stuff, they're kind of meh. I think they're set for this better than most teams. That doesn't mean they're going to do good. From what I've seen of these types of things with their non-Reinhardt comps and some of the heroes that have been taken out, it does not screw them over as badly as some other teams. They ran a fantastic double shield last year when they were doing the Ashe pocket thing and all that with the Mercy and, the halts. BQB was insane. If you want to get into Winston dive comps, they do the double bubble really well. They just do everything, I think, a little bit better than Houston does right now. And if you get into your Roadhog comps and that thing, you got Gargoyle. That's where he made his mark in 2019, playing Roadhog. In the initial pulled pork kind of thing with that. Plus his Sigma's really good. He's a really good tank in general. We're probably going to see some Diva. I'm not as sold on his Diva as I am his other heroes in the flex tank area, but he's good enough and I think can do whatever they need him to do on Diva. Their support line, I feel, is a little bit better than the Outlaws with Gangnam Jin and Slime. These two guys are, top of the league right now. So are Crimzo and Juby, but I'm just liking... everything is a little bit of a tick better right now for me with the Mayhem than the Outlaws, and that's not saying the Outlaws are bad. I believe I have them in my rankings. I have them right below the Mayhem at like 5, maybe 4. I think I have them at 4 going into the June Joust. So one thing I will say though, as far as this match, like I said, I don't know too much about Jengu's other tanks other than the ones he's played, like the Winston and the Rhine and stuff like that. I didn't really notice his Orisa or anything like that, but that's one spot where if it does get into a double shield thing, I kind of like, even though I don't know too much about what he can do, Jengu over Oj in that. Oj's Orisa is kind of shaky at times, and he's not the best. I don't think it's his style of hero to play. So he's better at the fast-paced stuff, or even like the Ryan comps and stuff like that. Like the last meta we had, where he could focus on doing damage and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you kind of do that with Orisa, but it's a lot of cooldown management, positioning, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes his positioning is a little suspect, and he gets himself out with mechanical skill and all that. So I think that's an opportunity if it does get into that, where Houston might look better than one would think. But I still like the rest of the Mayhem on those comps. From the sample size we saw last year. So, like I said, close match, guys. This is going to be a fantastic one to close out the weekend with. This is must watch Overwatch League, I think. We got two teams. Florida's been established for a year. The up and comer, the kind of the Florida of this year, if you really think about it, is Houston. So we're going to see what happens here. This is a big match too for as far as standings go for the Joust. These two teams got kind of a rough-ish road. I believe Florida has a little bit tougher schedule than they did last time. Well, they got three of the top four teams in my list on this. They got Houston, or top five, top six, whatever. They play Houston after that London match. They have to play Houston, Dallas, Washington. That's a tough 3 matches in a row. So they're going to want to come out and get this one. Team, I think they're close with, you could say all 3 of those teams, maybe outside of Dallas, depending on what happens in this meta. But Houston and Washington, they're closer to Dallas right now, I think. And this is a big match for them. It's also a big match for Houston. They need to take this, and conversely, they have a little bit easier of a time. If they beat the Mayhem, they have a good potential of being 4-0. They start off with Atlanta, who's beatable by them. They got the Mayhem, and then last week they have London and Toronto, who's also beatable. They're a tick above, in my opinion, a couple ticks above Toronto and Atlanta. Obviously, we haven't seen what they do in this meta. I hate having to do the caveat all the time with this hero pool. But if they beat the Mayhem, I have a feeling that they could go 4-0 in this whole stage. Obviously, match depending with Atlanta. It just looks pretty good for them, and I think this is a big match for them, too, to keep them up in the top of the standings. But yeah, that is going to do it for the featured matches, guys. Now, let's do the rundown. We're going to go through all of this week's schedule, top to bottom, and I'm going to give you my map picks, and then we're going to wrap this one up. So let's start this off. All right, the rundown, if you guys don't know, I go rapid fire succession, give you my winner and the map score. All right, here we go. Starting Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we had the Paris Eternal taking on the Toronto Defiant. In a close one, I like Toronto 3-1. Next up, we have London versus the Mayhem. I have the Mayhem 3-0 in this one. Easy one for the Mayhem to start the week off. Next up, we head to the East region. At 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Hangzhou Spark taking on the Guangzhou Charge. I got Hangzhou going 3-0. Next up on the east side of the bracket, we have Shanghai taking on Chengdu. We talked about this one. I have Shanghai 3-1. Last match in the East for Saturday, I have the Philadelphia Fusion 3-0 over the New York Excelsior. Now we head back to the West on Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Washington Justice versus Paris Eternal. Washington 3-1. Next up, Atlanta taking on the Houston Outlaws. In a close one, I like the Outlaws 3-2. Last match is Saturday. We have Toronto taking on Boston. I have Toronto 3-0 over the Uprising. All right, Sunday. We are going back east, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shanghai Dragons taking on the Hangzhou Spark. I like Shanghai in a close one, 3-2. Next up, we have New York taking on Guangzhou. Dog of a match. I have New York 3-2 in this one, in a close one. And the final match for the east side of the bracket for Sunday and the week. We have Philadelphia taking on Chengdu. I have Philadelphia 3-0. And back over the western side of the bracket, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, Atlanta taking on London. I have Atlanta 3-0. Next up, Washington taking on Boston. I have Washington winning 3-0. And the final match of the weekend, Florida in a close one, as we talked about, 3-2 over the Houston Outlaws. All right, guys, that's the rundown. And that's going to be this episode. So I'll see you guys at the beginning of the week with wrap up of week 6. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. All of your support has been greatly, greatly appreciated. If you're new, thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope you like what you're seeing and hearing. If you do, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, all the YouTube things. Greatly, greatly appreciated it would be. This is Misfit. I'm out. Everybody stay safe, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you on the next one.